The original Xbox, home to some of the best gaming gems that never got the love they deserved. While everyone was busy playing Halo and Fable, a bunch of incredible titles flew under the radar, waiting for someone to discover their awesomeness. So, if you missed out on some of these back in the day, don't worry, I've got you covered. Today, we are going into 25 massively underrated games on the original Xbox that are still a blast to play, packed with amazing gameplay, wild stories, and that nostalgic Xbox charm. Let's explore these hidden treasures.
Sweet mercy, what have you done?
Darkwatch, 2005, Cowboys and Vampires. Yeah, you heard that right. Darkwatch is the wild undead west, where you play as Jericho Cross, an outlaw turned vampire hunter who's got one mission: to destroy evil and kick some serious supernatural butt. The plot throws you into a world filled with gothic horror, undead enemies, and a secret society known as the Darkwatch. As Jericho, you're part vampire, and you'll use both guns and supernatural abilities to mow down your enemies in this first-person shooter. The gameplay is fast-paced and action-packed, blending traditional FPS mechanics with some unique twists. You'll gain special powers, like blood vision and vampire strength, making you feel like an unstoppable force as you blast through hordes of ghouls and demons. The game's Western aesthetic is dripping with atmosphere, and the mix of gritty gunplay and supernatural powers gives it a flavour unlike any other shooter at the time. Despite its awesome concept, Darkwatch didn't get the attention it deserved, likely because it was released during a crowded gaming year with heavy competition. Darkwatch was one of the few Xbox games to support co-op play, letting you and a friend take on the undead together. Trust me, this one's worth digging out of the crypt.
Ship was just about headed.
Full integrity compromised. Evacuate immediately.
Star Wars, Republic Commando, 2005. If you ever wanted to feel like an elite trooper in the Star Wars universe, Republic Commando delivers that dream on a silver platter. Set during the Clone Wars, you lead an elite squad of clone commandos through intense tactical missions against separatist forces. The plot is tightly woven into Star Wars lore, and you'll engage in battles across iconic locations like Geonosis and Kashyyyk, all while using a blend of tactical commands and sheer firepower. The gameplay is a perfect blend of squad-based tactics and first-person shooting. You'll control Delta Squad, giving orders like setting up sniper positions, breaching doors, or focusing fire on high-value targets. The AI of your squad mates is surprisingly smart, and the mix of strategy and action keeps things fresh throughout the game. Plus, the weapon variety, ranging from DC-17 blasters to Wookiee bowcasters, makes every firefight feel dynamic. Despite being a Star Wars game, Republic Commando didn't receive the massive fanfare other titles in the franchise did. It flew under the radar for many gamers, overshadowed by larger releases. But on the original console, this game ran like a dream, with smooth controls and solid graphics that truly immersed you in the Star Wars galaxy. Republic Commando is considered one of the best Star Wars games never to get a sequel, and fans still hold out hope for a continuation of Delta Squad's story.
Okay, let's party! Welcome to the White House.
Metal Wolf Chaos, 2004. In Metal Wolf Chaos, you play as the President of the United States, piloting a giant mech. Yeah, it's as wild as it sounds. The plot is absolutely bonkers. You, as President Michael Wilson, must take down a rebellious military coup led by your treacherous Vice President, Richard Hawke, who's trying to seize control of the country. Armed with a massive mech suit, you rampage across America to restore freedom, with a whole lot of missiles, machine guns, and over-the-top action. The gameplay is fast-paced and ridiculous in all the right ways. You'll pilot your mech through various levels, blasting everything in sight, from tanks to helicopters, with an absurd array of weapons. The controls are responsive, and the sheer chaos of blowing stuff up feels incredibly satisfying. The dialogue? It's hilariously cheesy, with lines like, "Let's party," delivered with full-on enthusiasm that just adds to the charm. Despite its unique premise, Metal Wolf Chaos never made it big outside of Japan, where it was released exclusively on the original Xbox. It's a shame because the game is a hidden gem that's fun, chaotic, and unlike anything else you'll play. After years of fan demand, Metal Wolf Chaos finally got a remaster in 2019, bringing the insane action to modern consoles. But the OG experience on Xbox still holds a special place in gamers' hearts. PSYOPs, The Mindgate Conspiracy, 2004. PSYOPs is a game that flew under a lot of radars, but those who played it will tell you it was way ahead of its time. You play as Nick Scryer, a former military operative with amnesia, classic trope, but it works, who discovers he has psychic powers. The plot revolves around using these powers to stop a terrorist organization called the Movement. And trust me, these aren't your average powers. We're talking telekinesis, mind control, and even pyrokinesis. Gameplay-wise, PSYOPs shines by letting you use your psychic abilities in creative ways. Sure, you've got your standard guns, but why shoot someone when you can use telekinesis to fling them across the room, or set them on fire with your mind? The combination of gunplay and psychic powers makes combat feel fresh and satisfying. The physics-based mechanics, especially with telekinesis, were groundbreaking for the time, giving you a sense of freedom in how you approach each encounter. Unfortunately, PSYOPs didn't get the attention it deserved, possibly overshadowed by other big releases in 2004. But on the original Xbox, it's a technical powerhouse, running smoothly and offering fluid combat that feels great even by today's standards. There was talk of a sequel to PSYOPs, but it never materialized, leaving fans to wonder what could have been.
Codename Brute Force.
Brute Force, 2003. Brute Force was hyped up as the next big thing for Xbox, but it didn't quite hit the mark commercially, though that doesn't mean it wasn't a blast to play. You control a team of 4 elite soldiers, each with their own unique abilities. Tex, the heavy weapons guy, Brutus, the alien with enhanced strength, Hawk, the stealth expert, and Flint, the sniper. The plot? It's a pretty standard sci-fi fare, with your squad sent on various missions to protect the galaxy from an alien threat. What makes Brute Force fun is the squad-based gameplay, where you can switch between characters on the fly to utilize their specific skills. Tex is great for mowing down enemies, while Hawk can sneak around and eliminate foes with precision. The variety in combat styles adds depth to the gameplay, allowing you to approach each mission differently depending on your team composition. Brute Force was initially hailed as a potential Halo killer, but it didn't quite live up to that level of fame. Still, it's an underrated gem that works incredibly well on the original Xbox, thanks to the console's solid performance and split-screen co-op, which was a blast with friends. Brute Force was one of the first games to support Xbox Live's downloadable content feature, allowing players to add new maps and features to the game. The Thing, 2002. Based on John Carpenter's cult classic horror film, The Thing takes you right back to the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, where paranoia and terror reign supreme. You play as Captain Blake, a Special Forces soldier sent to investigate the mysterious events that unfolded at the original research station. The plot picks up where the movie left off, creating a terrifying survival horror experience where anyone, and I mean anyone, could be a monstrous shapeshift. The gameplay blends action, horror, and trust mechanics in a way that few games did at the time. As you explore the creepy, snow-covered environments, you'll be fighting both the alien creatures and your own team's mistrust. Your AI-controlled squad mates can become infected by the Thing at any moment, and it's up to you to figure out who's still human and who's not. Ammo and supplies are limited, and the constant paranoia of who's friend or foe keeps you on edge the entire time. Despite its strong connection to a beloved film, The Thing didn't quite reach mainstream success, likely because it leaned more into survival horror than straightforward action, which may have turned some players off. The developers worked closely with John Carpenter to stay true to the film's atmosphere, and Carpenter even considered the game an unofficial sequel to his movie. Evil Dead Regeneration 2005. If you're an Evil Dead fan, you know there's only one Ash Williams, chainsaw-wielding, boomstick-toting, wise-cracking hero extraordinaire. Evil Dead Regeneration throws you back into the role of Ash in an alternate timeline where, instead of being stuck in the Middle Ages, as in Army of Darkness, he's committed to a mental institution. Naturally, all hell breaks loose as the Necronomicon summons Deadites, and it's up to Ash to clean house. Gameplay-wise, Regeneration is a third-person action game with all the over-the-top gore and humour you'd expect from the Evil Dead franchise. You've got your trusty chainsaw, boomstick, and even a pint-sized Deadite sidekick named Sam. The combat is fun and fast-paced, with brutal finishing moves and plenty of Deadites to dismember. Sam can be used to solve puzzles or even kicked into enemies like a human, well, undead, bowling ball. Despite its strong ties to the Evil Dead universe, Regeneration didn't get the recognition it deserved, likely overshadowed by bigger action games at the time. On the original console, it's a hidden gem, offering smooth gameplay, plenty of laughs, and a dose of gory fun. Bruce Campbell himself voices Ash, delivering his signature one-liners that give the game its classic Evil Dead charm. Cold Fear 2005. Before Resident Evil 4 revolutionized the survival horror genre, Cold Fear tried its hand at mixing over-the-shoulder shooting with chilling environments, and it does a pretty great job. You play as Tom Hansen, a US Coast Guard officer sent to investigate a derelict Russian whaling ship. Naturally, things go south fast, and you're soon facing off against both hostile mercenaries and nightmarish creatures infected by an alien parasite. The plot is classic survival horror, filled with mystery and plenty of creepy moments. The gameplay combines third-person shooting with puzzle solving and exploration. What makes Cold Fear stand out is its unique setting. The ship's constantly shifting decks, thanks to stormy seas, add an extra layer of challenge. Waves crash against the ship, causing you to sway and stumble, making aiming and movement more difficult in intense firefights. It's a small touch that heightens the tension, especially when you're fighting off hordes of enemies while trying to keep your balance. Despite its solid mechanics and atmospheric horror, Cold Fear never reached the heights of other survival horror games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, which came out around the same time. On the original Xbox, however, it's a smooth experience, with crisp visuals and an eerie atmosphere that holds up surprisingly well. Cold Fear was the first horror game to be published by Ubisoft, a studio that would go on to produce many more iconic titles.
A lost village.
Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly 2003. Survival horror meets traditional Japanese folklore in Fatal Frame 2. Crimson Butterfly, a haunting tale of twin sisters trapped in a ghost-filled village. You play as Mio, one of the sisters, using an antique camera, the camera obscura, to capture the malevolent spirits that roam the village. The plot is drenched in eerie atmosphere, and the game builds its scares through subtle tension rather than cheap jump scares. Every corner you turn could be the last thing you see before a ghostly figure creeps up on you. The gameplay revolves around exploration, puzzle solving, and combat using the camera obscura. Instead of guns or swords, your weapon of choice is a camera that exorcises spirits by taking photos. The closer and more centered your shots, the more damage you do. It's a mechanic that's simple but terrifying, forcing you to face the ghosts head-on, literally. The atmosphere is thick with dread, with creepy visuals, haunting sound design, and a slow burn tension that keeps you on edge. While Fatal Frame 2 received critical acclaim, it remains one of the more underrated horror titles on the Xbox, possibly overshadowed by bigger horror franchises like Resident Evil. Fatal Frame 2 is still widely regarded as one of the scariest games ever made, and its unique gameplay has earned it a cult following over the years. Project Snowblind 2005. Imagine if Deus Ex went full-blown action game. That's Project Snowblind in a nutshell. Originally intended as a Deus Ex spin-off, the game evolved into its own cyberpunk FPS. Set in a dystopian future, where you play as Nathan Frost, a super soldier with nanotech abilities. The plot revolves around stopping a terrorist faction from unleashing an EMP weapon that could throw the world into chaos. With a mix of gunplay, gadgets, and special abilities, Project Snowblind gives you plenty of ways to take down your enemies. Gameplay is where this one really shines. You've got your standard FPS mechanics, shooting, grenades, and plenty of explosions, but the real fun comes from Nathan's nanotech abilities. You can activate bullet time, deploy an energy shield, or hack enemy turrets to turn them against your foes. The variety in gameplay keeps things fresh, and the levels are designed to encourage creative use of your abilities, despite its fast-paced action and solid mechanics. Project Snowblind was overshadowed by bigger FPS titles of the time, like Halo 2 and Half-Life 2. On the original Xbox, the game plays smoothly, with impressive visuals and fluid combat that still holds up. Project Snowblind was originally meant to be part of the Deus Ex series, but after development shifted, it became a standalone game, though you can still see the Deus Ex DNA in the gameplay. Mace Griffin, Bounty Hunter, 2003. Space, guns, and bounty hunting. What's not to love? In Mace Griffin, Bounty Hunter, you step into the boots of Mace Griffin, a former lawman turned bounty hunter after being framed for the deaths of his squad. The plot takes you through a galaxy filled with corrupt corporations, space pirates, and political intrigue as you seek to clear your name and, of course, take down bounties. It's a mix of gritty space opera and guns-blazing action, with just enough twists to keep things interesting. Gameplay in Mace Griffin is all about switching seamlessly between first-person shooting and space combat. 1 minute you're on foot, gunning down enemies with a variety of futuristic weapons, and the next, you're hopping into a spaceship for some high-speed dogfights. The transitions between on-foot and space battles are impressively smooth, making the game feel like a seamless blend of Halo and Wing Commander. It's this dual gameplay mechanic that sets Mace Griffin apart from other shooters of the time. Despite its strong concept and fun gameplay, Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter didn't quite make waves in the crowded FPS market of the early 2000s. However, it's a fantastic experience on the original console, with solid graphics and fluid gameplay that makes it a joy to revisit. Actor Henry Rollins, known for his intense energy, voices Mace Griffin, adding a gritty edge to the character's tough-as-nails persona. Pariah, 2005. In a sea of first-person shooters, Pariah tried to stand out with its unique approach to storytelling and its weapon customization system. You play as Dr. Jack Mason, a disgraced medic-turned-soldier who crash lands on a desolate planet while transporting a mysterious prisoner. The plot delves into themes of bioweapons, conspiracies, and the quest for redemption. But while the story isn't groundbreaking, it serves as a decent backdrop for some solid FPS gameplay. The gameplay in Pariah focuses on typical FPS mechanics: shooting, cover, and explosive action. But where it shines is in its weapon modification system. You can collect upgrades to modify your weapons, adding new abilities like homing missiles or enhanced firepower. It adds a layer of strategy as you can tailor your arsenal to your playstyle or the challenges ahead. The multiplayer mode also offered some great deathmatch-style combat, though it never quite caught on like other Xbox shooters. Unfortunately, Pariah never gained the traction it needed, possibly due to competition from bigger titles like Halo 2. But on the original Xbox, the game holds up well, offering smooth controls and an engaging customization system that was ahead of its time. Pariah was developed by Digital Extremes, the same studio behind Unreal Tournament, which explains the game's focus on fast-paced, action-heavy combat. Batman Begins, 2005. Based on the hit movie that rebooted the Batman franchise, Batman Begins gives you the chance to step into the cape and cowl of the Dark Knight during his early days as Gotham's protector. The plot follows the movie closely, from Bruce Wayne's training with the League of Shadows to his battle against the Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul. The game is all about stealth, fear, and combat. capturing the tone and style of Christopher Nolan's film. Gameplay in Batman Begins focuses on stealth and intimidation, two core aspects of Batman's crime-fighting arsenal. You'll use gadgets like the Batarang, grappling hook, and explosive gel to create fear in your enemies before taking them down with brutal hand-to-hand combat. The game also encourages you to use the environment to your advantage, whether it's knocking out lights or using sound to distract foes. The combat system is straightforward, but it's the stealth elements that really make you feel like Gotham's brooding vigilante. Batman Begins didn't quite become a household name in the gaming world, likely because it was overshadowed by the Arkham series that followed. The game also features the voices of the movie's cast, including Christian Bale, Liam Neeson, and Michael Caine, adding an extra layer of authenticity. Midtown Madness 3, 2003. If you love chaotic city racing, Midtown Madness 3 is the game you need in your life. This open-world racing game takes place in two iconic cities, Paris and Washington, D.C., and throws you into wild, reckless races through busy streets, dodging traffic and pedestrians as you make your way to the finish line. The plot is light, focusing more on the fun of arcade-style racing than any deep narrative, but that's exactly what makes Midtown Madness 3 so addictive. The gameplay is pure arcade chaos, with a variety of modes, including circuit races, checkpoint races, and a fun Capture the Gold mode. You can drive everything from sports cars to buses, and the game's open-world design allows you to explore the cities at your own pace, finding shortcuts and hidden paths. The sense of speed is exhilarating, and the unpredictable nature of the traffic and city environments keeps you on your toes during every race. Despite its fast, fun gameplay, Midtown Madness 3 didn't get the same level of attention as other racing games like Burnout or Need for Speed. On the original Xbox, however, it's a hidden gem with solid controls and vibrant city environments that make each race feel alive. Midtown Madness 3 was one of the first games to support Xbox Live multiplayer, letting players race against each other in real time across the globe. Area 51, 2005. First-person shooters with a sci-fi twist are always a blast, and Area 51 delivers on that front with a story that mixes conspiracy theories, alien experiments, and government cover-ups. You play as Ethan Cole, a hazmat operative sent to investigate a viral outbreak at the infamous Area 51 military base. But as you dig deeper, you uncover an alien conspiracy that threatens all of humanity. The plot is equal parts X-Files and action movie, filled with aliens, mutants, and plenty of gunfights. The gameplay in Area 51 is typical FPS fare, fast-paced shooting with a variety of weapons and enemies to blast. But the game adds a unique twist. After being infected by the alien virus, you gain special abilities, including enhanced vision and strength, which make combat even more intense. The levels are varied, taking you through creepy labs, underground alien bunkers, and more. The multiplayer mode also offered some solid deathmatch action, though it wasn't as widely played as bigger FPS titles. Area 51 didn't quite make a huge splash when it was released, overshadowed by other sci-fi shooters like Halo 2. The game also features voice acting from David Duchovny of X-Files fame and Marilyn Manson, adding some star power to its conspiracy-laden storyline.
Kung Fu Chaos!
Kung Fu Chaos, 2003. If you're looking for a wild, wacky, and downright hilarious multiplayer experience, Kung Fu Chaos delivers in spades. Set in a cheesy 1970s kung fu movie, this game throws you into chaotic brawls on over-the-top movie sets, where everything from pirate ships to exploding volcanoes serves as your fighting arena. The plot? Well, there really isn't one, other than your character trying to become a kung fu legend by kicking, punching, and hilariously humiliating your rivals on screen. The gameplay is pure party game fun, with a focus on fast-paced, slapstick-style combat. You choose from a roster of colourful characters, each with their own unique moves and personalities, and duke it out against your friends or AI opponents in free-for-all or team-based battles. What makes Kung Fu Chaos stand out is its blend of humor and action. Whether you're throwing enemies into environmental hazards or pulling off exaggerated combo moves, every fight is filled with laugh-out-loud moments. Despite its sheer fun factor, Kung Fu Chaos didn't get the recognition it deserved, probably because it was a bit too wacky for the mainstream audience at the time. On a side note, Kung Fu Chaos was developed by the team that would later go on to create Heavenly Sword and DMC Devil May Cry, showcasing the studio's knack for creating fun and dynamic combat systems. ToeJam and Earl III, Mission to Earth 2002. ToeJam and Earl are back, and this time they're on a mission to Earth to recover the 12 sacred albums of funk. The plot is as ridiculous as it sounds, but that's part of what makes ToeJam and Earl III, Mission to Earth such a fun experience. You play as the funky aliens ToeJam, Earl, or their new friend Letitia as they explore Earth's weird and wild environments, all while collecting the albums and dodging Earthlings who just don't get the groove. The gameplay mixes action, exploration, and a bit of puzzle solving, much like the original ToeJam and Earl games. You'll roam around procedurally generated levels, collecting presents, power-ups, and other funky goodies while avoiding annoying humans like preachers and cheerleaders. The game's humour is off the charts, with hilarious dialogue, goofy characters, and a groovy soundtrack that keeps the mood light and fun. Co-op play lets you and a friend team up for double the funky fun, making this a great couch co-op game. Despite its iconic characters, ToeJam and Earl III didn't receive the widespread praise of its predecessors, perhaps due to its more niche appeal. The game was originally planned for the Sega Dreamcast before development shifted to the Xbox, keeping the ToeJam and Earl spirit alive for a new generation. Voodoo Vince 2003. Voodoo Vince is a platformer with a dark twist. You play as a voodoo doll named Vince who can hurt himself to defeat enemies. The plot kicks off when Vince's owner, Madame Charmaine, is kidnapped, and it's up to Vince to rescue her from a gang of supernatural baddies. Set in a New Orleans-inspired world filled with jazz, magic, and mystery, Voodoo Vince stands out with its unique art style and offbeat humor. The gameplay is classic platforming, with Vince jumping across tricky environments, solving puzzles, and using his voodoo powers to take down enemies. What makes Voodoo Vince special is the way he defeats foes, not by hitting them directly, but by hurting himself in creative ways. Whether he's jumping into a blender, setting himself on fire, or summoning lightning strikes, Vince's masochistic moves are both hilarious and effective. The level design is also a standout, with colourful, atmospheric locations that capture the spooky, whimsical vibe of the game. Despite being a quirky and creative platformer, Voodoo Vince didn't quite break into the mainstream, likely overshadowed by bigger names like Ratchet & Clank or Jak and Daxter. On the original Xbox, however, it's a hidden gem with smooth controls and vibrant visuals that make it a joy to play. Voodoo Vince was re-released in HD for Xbox One in 2017, giving it a second life with a whole new audience.
Brace yourself for Crash Nitro Kart!
Crash Nitro Kart 2003. Crash Nitro Kart is the kart racer that brought the Crash Bandicoot crew to the racing scene, offering plenty of high-speed action and over-the-top fun. The plot is simple. Crash and his friends and enemies are kidnapped by Emperor Velo, who forces them to race in an intergalactic tournament to save Earth. It's goofy, it's wild, and it's the perfect setup for some kart racing chaos. The gameplay sticks to the tried and true formula of kart racers like Mario Kart, with fast-paced races, colourful tracks, and a ton of wacky power-ups. Each character has their own unique stats and vehicles, adding a bit of strategy to the mix. You can also perform power slides and boosts to get ahead of the competition, and the game's vibrant track design keeps each race feeling fresh and fun. The multiplayer mode allows you and your friends to battle it out across a variety of modes, from traditional races to more competitive challenges. While Crash Nitro Kart is fun, it was often seen as living in the shadow of Mario Kart, which is probably why it flew under the radar for many gamers. Still, the game holds up well as a solid kart racer with plenty of personality. Crash Nitro Kart was the first Crash Bandicoot game developed by Vicarious Visions, a studio that would later handle the remastered Crash Bandicoot N. Sane trilogy. Death Row 2002. Think of Death Row as a brutal mix of rugby, soccer and hockey, but with more punches. Set in a dystopian future, Death Row is a fast-paced, violent sports game where teams battle it out in an arena to score goals while also beating the living daylights out of each other. The plot is secondary to the action, but it adds a gritty, cyberpunk atmosphere to the whole experience. Gameplay in Death Row is where it shines. You control a team of players in an arena, trying to score points by getting a disc into the opponent's goal. But this isn't your typical sports game. Combat is a huge part of it, with players using martial arts moves to knock out opponents, steal the disc, and generally cause chaos. The controls are tight, and the combat racing mix makes each match feel intense and satisfying. The multiplayer mode is where Death Row really takes off, letting you and your friends battle it out in brutal, futuristic sports carnage. Despite being a unique and engaging sports game, Death Row never quite reached mainstream success, likely due to its niche appeal. On the original Xbox, however, it's a blast to play, with responsive controls and a distinct visual style that captures its gritty future sport vibe. Death Row was one of the few early Xbox titles to support System Link, allowing players to connect multiple consoles for massive multiplayer battles. Dead Man's Hand 2004. In Dead Man's Hand, you're thrown into the gritty, lawless world of the Wild West. You play as El Tejon, a gunslinger betrayed by his outlaw gang and left for dead. Naturally, you're out for revenge, taking down your former gang members one bullet at a time. The plot is classic Western fare, filled with saloons, shootouts, and dusty desert towns, but it's the gameplay that gives it a sharp edge. The gameplay is all about fast-paced first-person shooting with a unique twist, the trick shot system. As you gun down enemies, you can earn extra points for performing flashy moves like shooting weapons out of enemies' hands or pulling off stylish headshots. These trick shots don't just look cool, they boost your score and give you bonus rewards. The environments are also interactive, allowing you to blow up barrels, shoot out lanterns, or collapse bridges to take out enemies in creative ways. Despite its solid Western setting and fun mechanics, Dead Man's Hand never quite caught the attention of the masses, likely because it was overshadowed by bigger FPS titles at the time. However, it's still a soothed and enjoyable experience, with crisp visuals and satisfying gunplay that holds up well. The game was developed by Human Head Studios, the same team behind the cult classic Prey 2006.
Caution, the suspects must be stopped.
Let's get to the bank, partner.
Starsky and Hutch 2003. Starsky and Hutch brings the classic 1970s cop duo to life in a game filled with high-speed chases, shootouts, and plenty of 70s flair. You play as the iconic detectives Starsky and Hutch as they tear through the streets in their famous red and white Gran Torino, taking down bad guys and bringing justice to the city. The plot follows various episodes of the TV show, mixing in a bit of campy charm with plenty of car chases and over-the-top action. The gameplay is a mix of driving and shooting, with one player taking the wheel and the other controlling the gunfire. The goal is to catch criminals while maintaining your viewer ratings, which means pulling off stylish maneuvers and taking out enemies with precision to keep the excitement high. The game's two-player mode is where it shines, as you and a friend can team up to bring the full buddy cop experience to life. While Starsky and Hutch is a fun romp, it flew under the radar for many players, likely because it didn't stand out against other driving games of the time. The game also includes narration by Antonio Fargas, who played Huggy Bear in the original Starsky and Hutch TV series. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, 2002. Dive back into the magical world of Hogwarts in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, a game that lets you step into Harry's shoes as he uncovers the mystery behind the titular chamber. The plot follows the events of the book and movie closely, with Harry facing off against giant spiders, mischievous house elves, and, of course, the fearsome basilisk lurking beneath the school. The gameplay is a mix of exploration, spellcasting, and puzzle solving, with Hogwarts serving as an open hub where you can roam freely between classes and iconic locations like the Forbidden Forest and Diagon Alley. The game's spellcasting system is simple but fun, allowing you to learn and use spells like Expelliarmus and Lumos to solve puzzles and defeat enemies. The game also features a range of mini-games and side quests that make exploring Hogwarts feel rewarding. Although Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was well received, it remains somewhat underrated in comparison to the more modern Harry Potter games. On the original console, the game runs smoothly with vibrant visuals that capture the magic of Hogwarts, making it one of the best early Harry Potter gaming experiences. The game features original voice actors from the film, including Rupert Grint as Ron, giving it an extra layer of authenticity. Shadow Ops Red Mercury, 2004. Shadow Ops Red Mercury is an action-packed military FPS that feels like a blockbuster action movie from start to finish. You play as Captain Frank Hayden, a special forces operative tasked with preventing terrorists from detonating a suitcase nuke known as Red Mercury. The plot takes you across the globe, from Syria to Russia, as you chase down the terrorists and engage in explosive firefights. Gameplay in Shadow Ops is all about fast-paced, tactical shooting, with plenty of cinematic set pieces that keep the action intense. The game features tight, responsive controls and a variety of weapons, from assault rifles to grenades, as well as some vehicle segments to break up the on-foot combat. The AI of your enemies is surprisingly sharp, keeping you on your toes as you navigate tight corridors and open battlefields alike. Despite its cinematic flair, Shadow Ops Red Mercury was often overlooked, possibly because it didn't quite stand out in the crowded FPS market of the early 2000s. It still offers smooth, action-packed gameplay and crisp graphics that hold up well for fans of military shooters. The game's sound design was handled by Hollywood audio experts, and it shows. Every gunshot and explosion feels like it's ripped straight out of an action movie. Bruce Lee, Quest of the Dragon, 2002. Who wouldn't want to step into the shoes of the legendary Bruce Lee? Bruce Lee. Quest of the Dragon attempts to do just that, placing you in the role of the martial arts icon as he battles through hordes of enemies to rescue his kidnapped father. The plot is a typical martial arts revenge story, but it serves as a solid backdrop for plenty of kung fu action. The gameplay focuses on hand-to-hand combat, with Bruce Lee using a variety of punches, kicks, and iconic moves like the flying kick and his signature nunchucks. The game's combat system is a bit clunky, but there's something undeniably fun about stringing together combos and unleashing Bruce's martial arts fury on waves of enemies. The game features some environmental interactions, allowing you to use objects like chairs and tables to take down opponents in true kung fu movie style. Despite being tied to one of the most iconic names in martial arts, Quest of the Dragon was widely panned by critics for its rough mechanics and awkward controls. However, for fans of Bruce Lee, it's still an underrated gem worth playing on the console, if only for the chance to unleash the dragon. The game's developers worked closely with the Bruce Lee estate to ensure that his moves and fighting style were as authentic as possible. And there you have it, 25 massively underrated gems from the original Xbox library that didn't get the spotlight they deserved. From fast-paced shootouts in Dead Man's Hand to the quirky fun of Voodoo Vince, and even stepping into the shoes of Bruce Lee himself, these games covered all kinds of genres but somehow flew under the radar. Whether you missed them the first time around or just want to dive back into some nostalgic Xbox gaming, these titles are definitely worth rediscovering. So, dust off that old console, grab a controller, and experience some of the most overlooked adventures the Xbox had to offer. Trust me, once you fire up these games, you'll wonder why they didn't become instant classics.